Kingdom Hearts is special to me. If you're watching this, you probably feel the same way. One doesn't typically find casual fans of the series. More often than not, those that have followed Sora on his journey across different exotic Disney worlds have formed a deep personal connection to these games and the stories they tell, or at least have been left with an appreciation for them. In the 20 plus years since the release of Kingdom Hearts 1, oh my god, I'm old. These games have given us some of the most affecting and weighty moments in video game history. Some of the series entries have aged more gracefully than others, but every single one has its loyalists and truthers. That's a testament to the engaging universe that we as players are taken into every time we boot up our gaming system of choice. And it's why we are all here today to celebrate what makes Kingdom Hearts so meaningful to us. Part of what makes these games so charming is their indelible cast of likable and relatable characters, both from established properties and from original KH canon. For those uninitiated, the two entities that make up a large body of the KH universe are those of Disney and Final Fantasy. The Disney crew that Sora encounters is fun and energetic, largely holding true to their on-screen versions, while the Final Fantasy cameos, at least from my understanding, are all faithful to their original appearances in their home games. I say from my understanding because I've only ever played FF16. I'm sorry, I know, I'm trash, I recognize that, and I'm working on it. They're all excellent additions to the worlds we've visited over the years, but they only represent a portion of the cast of these games. While many, if not most, were originally drawn to the Disney aspects of the game's story, I think it's the Kingdom Hearts original characters that have really earned their staying power. Take Sora. Man, how about this guy, huh? The kid that was almost a lion has gone from a plucky, come-from-nothing island dweller to one of the most popular characters in all of the video game landscape. He's entered the highest echelon of virtual stardom, and yet, our spiky-haired goofball is just one fragment of a much more expansive, emotionally complex cast. While it's true that every new IP needs a strong protagonist, it's rare that a series manages to pack so much life and energy into all of its supporting and background characters. Riku's internal battle with his darkness, Kairi's unwavering faith in her friends, Aqua's tortured path back home. Each of these people have depth and weight, and while it's true that some are a bit more nuanced than others, they've all got their truthers and deserve their place in the story. And it's not just the main squad of playable Keyblade wielders. Even members of the antagonistic Organization 13 find themselves considered amongst the most recognizable faces of the franchise. Which, in fairness, is easier now that they've undergone a very effective brand reorg and have made the switch to being good guys. This group was equal parts evil and fabulous, leading the fanbase to adopt them as beloved linchpins of the story. Each of these black-coated baddies has their advocates, and deservedly so, but there can be only one occupying the top spot in the mind of each fan. Are you a Larxene lover, or a Demyx devotee? Maybe you're a Braig believer, or a Zexian zealot. Maybe you're a Zaldin extremist? Maybe? Maybe not that one. We'll find one. We'll figure one out. Everyone's got their number one. And for me, that has been, is, and likely always will be, Axel. Oh wow, what a hot take. You think Axel's cool? You're so edgy, you're so different, wow. Okay, yes, I know, but what can I say? He's him. Instantly memorable, roguishly endearing, and utterly in over his head. Axel is a fascinating cat. He's seen more growth than most in the series, and has been involved in many iconic moments. Even so, there's a good group of people that would contend that he's yet to reach his full potential. Despite so much going for him, Axel's future appears to be clouded. How can that be? Today, I'd like to talk about why Axel matters, and what I want to see from him as the series progresses. He's got a lot of people rooting for him. Let's talk about why that is.
Got it memorized?
I'm doing my
Before jumping right into the fire, let's do a bit of background setup. Kingdom Hearts is a series that, if you lay everything out, is incredibly wide in its scope. These games have spent the last 20-odd years building a universe that feels fully realized and lived in, with each title adding more lore to its ever-expanding mythos. This sense of authenticity was apparent from the jump, even in its first entry way back in 2002. Sora, Donald, and Goofy never felt out of place visiting various Disney locales throughout their quest, and in fact acted as engaging additions to the already established stories of the places they spent time at. That's true of the Final Fantasy reps too. While largely localized to original locations such as Destiny Islands and Traverse Town, as well as Cloud's cameo in Olympus Coliseum, the FF gang felt just as natural to KH1's story as any Disney representative. Each of them had valid justifications for their inclusion and never felt tacked on. Tetsuya Nomura's vision was working. What's cool about that vision is how such a wild pitch, the mixing of Disney and Final Fantasy characters and elements with some original content sprinkled in, worked so effortlessly. Shocker to literally no one watching this, but KH1's ability to seamlessly weave all of these characters and stories together was masterful, and it's a big part of the reason the game was so successful way back then and remains so now. Kingdom Hearts was a triumph, but Nomura wasn't satisfied. KH1 melded its ingredients together admirably, but they were definitely pulling more from the established brands than any original works, especially in the character department. Sora, Riku, Kairi, and Ansem SOD were definitely fun and interesting folks, but Nomura's eyes stayed fixed on the horizon. He didn't want his original creations to simply be side additions to mainstream entities. He wanted them to be the main focus, and to explore emotional complexities that KH1 didn't have the opportunity to delve into. Nomura was determined to create characters that would leave a lasting impact. And boy did he deliver. Chain of Memories and Kingdom Hearts 2 introduced the fandom to a cavalcade of coat-wearing cronies that they would become intimately familiar with in the coming years. The members of Organization 13, despite acting as antagonists for a vast majority of the series, have become some of the most recognizable faces, and hair colors, of the series, and maybe even in video games as a whole. This may be sacrilegious, but Calm was actually my ingress point into the Kingdom Hearts games. At 10 years old and only recently dipping my toe into the world of video games, I didn't own a console of any kind. I missed out on the PS2 and, therefore, KH1's initial launch. Imagine my hype then when I was gifted with a brand spanking new Game Boy Advance for Christmas. Shouts out, moms, appreciate you. Opening the door to this magical land for the first time. God, the GBA was so good. What a way to get into gaming, huh? Pokemon Sapphire, Sonic Advance, Battle for Bikini Bottom, Lord of the Rings The Third Age, Metroid Fusion, Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, Shaman King Master of Spirit, Shark Tale? I mean, it's just banger after banger after banger. Talk about heaters. I was feasting back then and I didn't even know it. That's crazy. Anyway, off I went into Castle Oblivion. I was a little bit confused by the events of the game. Duh, idiot, you missed out on the literal first one. But I caught on well enough thanks to Calm's retreading of the events of KH1. You know what was new though? The game's eerie baddies from Org 13, each of them menacing and intimidating to little old me. Even with this glamorous group running around making my life hell and forcing me to swear off card games for the rest of my days, one of them stood out. The second I laid eyes on that flame-haired demon, I knew Axel was a different breed. Maybe it was his distinct look that combined coolness and mystery in a Kakashi-like way. Maybe it was his way too cool for school or education of any kind or level attitude, or potentially his awesome fiery chakram weapons which remain unique. But there was just a different aura about him. His appeal wasn't purely superficial either. Here was a man that had depth and weight to his character, motivations beyond his team, and even beyond this game. That's not exactly newsworthy these days, but it blew my mind back then. And it wasn't even localized to Axel. All of the characters in Calm were fleshed out, multi-dimensional people. It's just that he was the pinnacle of them, at least in my estimation. He was a rogue agent, betraying ally after ally and entirely acting on his own volition. Marluxia, Larxene, Vexen, and the others were certainly intimidating, but Axel was downright dangerous. Time has softened him up significantly, but that first appearance built him up as a menace. Real Black Air Force One energy. Of course, Chain of Memories was simply Axel's initial entry into the KH series. Kingdom Hearts 2 expanded on him further, showing a more human side to this once bloodthirsty nobody and fully cementing his status as an anti-hero. Anti-hero, anti-hero, I don't know, I go back and forth on it. Days went even deeper, pulling back the layers of outward coolness and apathy that he displayed in his early appearances, and revealing a deeply intense longing for a camaraderie, connection, and meaning. It was in this game that we really explored his motivations, and gained an understanding of what drives Axel to the lengths that he goes to. He wouldn't become fully real, at least in a literal sense, until later on in the series, but it was during Days that he truly became humanized in a way that Well, he just hadn't been before. Quick soapbox here. Can we please get a legit remake or port of Days? It's the only Kingdom Hearts game that I've never actually had the chance to play through myself, and I know the movie doesn't exactly tell the whole story. I want to experience it for myself, man. Please, it'd be, actually, never mind. He only became more popular from then on, acting as a bona fide supporting hero in Dream Drop Distance before earning his highest accolade as one of the 7 Guardians of Light, and taking part in the final climactic battle in Kingdom Hearts 3. He, maybe didn't contribute to their victory as much as we would have liked, but more on that in a bit. Over the years, Axel has gone through a myriad of changes, and is virtually unrecognizable from his introductory appearance. Plenty of other characters in Kingdom Hearts have developed and grown since their beginnings, but few can boast the degree to which he's undergone such a transformation. Again, we've seen dudes like Ienzo and Evan start off as dirty no-goodniks and later defect to the side of righteousness, but Axel, or more specifically, Lee, goes a step further. Part of his endearing personality comes from his motivations. Axel isn't spurned on by hopes of acquiring power or knowledge. Instead, he simply wants to be remembered, for his legacy to endure, and the best way to do that is to have friends to make memories with. Even as an unfeeling nobody, Axel's friendship with Roxas and Shion is at the forefront of his mind. Their bond is his lifeline, the most important aspect of his being. It's what facilitates his change between this murderous rampage and chain of memories to sacrificing himself to protect Sora in Kingdom Hearts 2. This devotion to the people that mean the most to him made Lee not only likable, but also relatable. The significance of friendship and the support that other people provide to each other is one of the core concepts in the series, and while scenes such as Sora's declaration of "my friends are my power" are emblematic of this principle, Lee's desire to keep his friends safe and his memory alive is just as impactful. I think a key reason that Lee's specific brand of ideology is so meaningful is because he's the one delivering it. What I mean is, seeing the once antagonistic, aloof, and borderline psychotic Axel transform not just into a good guy, but one that shows extreme vulnerability and compassion for others while constantly trying to validate his own existence is a legitimately touching transformation. His ability to provide moments of humor to others amid his own personal struggles is something that I think a lot of people can relate to. It's because of this relatability that Lee is so captivating in all of his lowest and highest points. The moment of catharsis we viewers felt when he was finally reunited with his besties in the finale of Kingdom Hearts 3 was unmatched. I imagine there was nary a dry eye amongst the fandom when Lee could finally embrace those he'd fought so hard to keep safe, knowing that, at long last, he had accomplished his goal. This was the crowning moment of his character arc, showing that all of the sacrifice and strife had been worth it. I'm overly sentimental, probably to a fault, but this remains maybe the single most personally affecting scene in the franchise's history. Now that he's reached the absolute limit of sentimentality that my heart can handle, it seems that there's a bit of uncertainty surrounding our fiery favorite. With his narrative seemingly complete, Lee seems as though he may be on the outs in terms of importance to the central story. We obviously have very little to go on at this time, what with Kingdom Hearts 4 news being deader than Instagram threads.
I'm sorry, Your Majesty.
But it appears that characters like the Wayfinder trio are set to take a more central role, and our guy may be left out in the cold. That's purely speculation though. Things being as nebulous as they are, it's impossible to make any kind of definitive claims, but here's what we do know. Our Radiant Garden comrades are actively searching through data for clues on Sora's whereabouts, while Aqua, Terra, and Ventus have headed off to the world of darkness. Meanwhile, the last we've seen of Lee and his Twilight Town homies is them hanging out and enjoying their newfound freedom before watching one of their best friends fade away into nothingness. Man, that's kind of a downer. Lee hasn't been explicitly shown since that final shot of everyone hanging out on Destiny Islands, and I'm a bit worried that he won't have the same amount of agency that the other heroes do, especially after his lackluster showing in the final battle of KH3. So what does the future hold for our mans? I'm not one to really get into the theory crafting side of things, mostly because I have the attention span of a housefly on a ski trip with Bonkers the cat, but for your consideration, here's my supposition for Lee's future. He is not done yet. Not done with what exactly? Well, a couple things. As we discussed, Lee's core motivating point for his actions has always been the protection of his friends. While he succeeded in rescuing Roxas and Shion, the ending of KH3 didn't exactly go the way our heroes were hoping it would, and there's now a conspicuously Haley Joel Osment sounding hole in their group. Ergo, there's work to do. It can probably have been assumed that Lee would take some sort of action in aiding Sora's return, but I'm hoping that he'll take a significant step towards becoming the critical piece of the team that we were expecting him to be. To that end, he'll likely have to continue his training with his really sick Keyblade. Seriously, how awesome is the Flame Liberator? Hot take, pun intended, but it's a top 5 Keyblade in my opinion. Quick, top 5 Keyblade ranking. Number 5, Wheel of Fate, because I like pirate stuff and the flag transformation is one of my favorites. Number 4, Oathkeeper, because it looks really cool and I love its lore. Number 3, Osset's Keyblade. You thought I was going to say Oblivion, but nope. I like this Keyblade a lot because I like the design and I was in this union. What's up, Bear Gang? Number 2, Flame Liberator, because just look at it, man. It's so sick. It's just so cool and I love it. I love it so much. Honorable mention goes to the Kingdom Key. You know, we gotta show some respect. Obviously, it's the legend. You know, it's the most iconic one, but it's just not quite top 5 for me. It's a good Keyblade. It's a great Keyblade, just not quite top 5. And number 1, Ends of the Earth, because I'm a Terra guy, and this design is just so awesome, and the Lingering Will used to run my pockets with it, and so I know that it's useful. So, yeah, shouts out to the Ends of the Earth. It's my favorite Keyblade. Anyway, back to it. Kairi has declared that she'd like to train under Aqua, so maybe Lee could do some work with Terra to hone his skills. Terra knows what it's like to have been influenced by darkness in service of his loved ones, so there's some interesting parallels to be drawn between them, much like Terra and Riku. Plus, it'd be fun to watch the stoic Terra be forced to deal with Lee's constant quips and antics. That alone is worth the price of admission for me. Lee's connection with Sora and Kairi runs deep, so seeing him team up with the rest of the good guys to mount their rescue mission would be a sight to behold for many fans. The Kingdom Hearts 4 reveal trailer seemed to hint at characters potentially having to do some searching for clues in different worlds. Could be a chance for our boy to take a more prominent part in the team's efforts to liberate their bestie from Quadratum. Time will tell, but I'm optimistic that he'll get a chance to redeem himself and become the fiery force for freedom that many of us view him as. As lame as it may sound, I just want him to achieve the success that I know he's capable of. Even after 20 years of memories, it still feels like Lee is just getting started, and that he's yet to fully step into his full power. The Kingdom Hearts series is entering a new era, one that is surrounded by mystery and uncertainty. There truly are unlimited possibilities as to what will happen next, and it feels like a fresh start for almost every one of these beloved characters. Lee could very well be on the verge of a breakout showing in Kingdom Hearts 4, or whatever mobile game is set to come out next. With maybe 1 or 2 exceptions, I truly can't think of someone that encapsulates the series' values in all of its aspects more than Lee. And I can only hope that he'll be one of the main pillars of the franchise as it continues into the Lost Masters arc. When we look at this charismatic, flawed, driven man, we see a rare example of a character that has really come to life. Well, literally. He's not as iconic as Sora, or as powerful as Riku, or as integral to the story as Kairi, but Axel is about as close to an embodiment of us as players as anyone. Or, okay, almost anyone, I guess. He's not a paragon of virtue, but he's not a villain. He's got powerful abilities, but he's still overwhelmed by the world around him. Lee is so easy to root for because he just feels like one of us. Someone doing their best to protect what they care about and just trying to do the right thing, even if it doesn't always work out the way they'd like. He's made mistakes, horrible ones, but he's trying to move past them and look forward, trying his very best to bring about a better future for those around him, even if it puts him at risk. Who among us can't relate to something like that? That's a timeless, you like that? Circumstance that will always be relevant to people. Maybe that's why I hold so much space for him. His story resonates in a way that bridges the gap between the worlds we're playing on our consoles and the one we live in. It's said that the absolute greatest games make you think about them even after you finish them, and for my money, a rare few have been able to connect to the players as effectively and substantially as this dude right here. Axel's story has impacted me in a way few pieces of media ever have. Kingdom Hearts has a litany of fantastic personalities encased within its sprawling lore, and yet his remains one of the most compelling and convincing identities of all. There's no way to know what the future holds for our blazing bandito, how involved he'll be in the story, or what kind of evolution he'll undergo next, or what sort of joke he'll pull out, but I can look back on the time I've spent with this guy and say that it's been an amazing journey. If his story has ended, I'm happy for him. Axel deserves the happiness that he worked so long and so hard to achieve, and I hope he gets to enjoy it. I don't know though. Something tells me he's only been simmering to this point, and that he's about to turn the heat up in the next few entries. Either way, I'll be here singing his praises, and still, all these years later, being blown away at the metamorphosis that Lee has undergone. From heinous henchman, to tragic bystander, to a genuine, bona fide hero who was utterly unforgettable.
This can't be all that we wanted for a single hero right now. I won't fight for the old life. Help me try to understand. I just wanna be someone who cares. I just wanna be someone who cares.
Thank you so much for watching this. I hope you dug it. If you did, there's plenty of other videos to check out on this here channel. Things like videos on music or sports, or even more obscure stuff like movies from 2004. Feel free to hit me up on Blue Sky or Twitter if you would like to interact at all. And honestly, I never really know how to end these things, so thanks, bye!